Where are we at in society today? Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Every single week, I put my freaking heart and soul into this. I don't go out there and laugh. It's not funny. It's not fun. Nothing's funny to me. I don't want to go out there and get embarrassed on Monday Night Football in front of everybody.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
So ain't nothing changed from yesterday. Still the same person I was yesterday. And I got the same thing for you that I had yesterday. You know why I'm here.
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
Balance creates a little validation for many, although really tough stretch for MSU, but a really impressive win last night at Breslin Center against one of the better offensive teams in the country. Welcome, everybody, on a Wednesday morning. It's a hump day, and glad you're with us here on X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. We are live also streaming on X at XB Mornings, on Facebook and YouTube at X's and Bros. The Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. Impressive win for MSU last night. They beat Purdue 74-66, their first win over the Boilermakers since February of 2022, snapping a 5-game losing streak in the series. State shot 68% from the field in the second half overall, made 15 free throws. And I think the biggest statistic might be the fact that they had just 8 turnovers in this game. Now, that's from an offensive and sort of like a defensive standpoint. They get to their 21st win. They get their 12th win in 15 tries in conference play. 4 Spartans reach double figures, led by Jace Richardson's team best 12. The story really is the defense and, the rebounding was, whatever. I mean, it wasn't a huge discrepancy there. Purdue's got some big guys inside, and they can rebound the ball. They're a very good offensive club, as you know. And Michigan State's defense, when people talk about what makes you believe in a certain team. So Braden Smith, I think, is one of the best players in the country. He should be in the running for Player of the Year. He's not going to win it. Cooper Flagg's going to win that. But he should be in the running for Player of the Year. Had 17 last night. Michigan State made him work. Great players. Word great might be overused in this sense, but kid's arguably the best player in the Big Ten, one of the best players in the country. So if you think that defines greatness, then let's just roll with it, shall we? As a collegiate player this season, he's been great. Great players are going to get theirs. Rarely are you going to have a guy go below his average, all right? The key is to making that player work for it. Last night, watching some social media baseball videos, just love clicking in on that. And they had the matchup between Nolan Ryan and Ken Griffey Jr., early in Ken Griffey Jr.'s career. And Ken Griffey Jr. at the time led the league in hits with 149. Now, this is obviously later in the season. Nolan Ryan was with Texas. Ken Griffey Jr. was with Seattle. So the two teams were playing quite a bit. And obviously it wasn't the first matchup, but it was a key matchup, right? Anytime you see two Hall of Famers, two future Hall of Famers, for sure you're going to pay attention to it. And Nolan Ryan, he goes 3-2 and he gets him on a wicked curve. Might have been a slider, but I think it was a curveball. My point is, both those guys are great. Both those guys made the other guy work. Griffey Jr. forced him to a 3-2 count. Nolan Ryan ended up striking him out, but not after a battle. What Michigan State did last night to a really good player is make him work. Braden Smith was 7 of 13, but 3 of 9 from downtown. Now, 7 of 13, anybody would take, right? 3 of 9 downtown is okay. Nothing special. It's okay. They made him work his tail off to get his 17 points. On top of that, they turned him over 6 times. And I think that's a really important statistic to monitor, at least in this game. Sure, we'll look at the 17 points and say, okay, he led Purdue in scoring again. Okay, he had a really good shooting percentage. Braden Smith will tell you, you know what? It was a frustrating night for me. Michigan State's defense, primarily, was the key to the victory. Good for them. Like 75 points, oh, that's awesome, right? 21 wins. We pick out certain numbers, and I do it. We pick out certain numbers we think are really important. That's a key statistic, man. Think about this. Michigan State turned them over 12 times for the game. 6 of those turns, half of those turns, were by Purdue's best player and best ball handler. So that tells you something about what MSU was able to do. And sometimes it's not always, hey, I just poked it away from behind, or it's a clean swipe and go down the other end of the floor for an easy lay-in. Sometimes it's sagging your defense. It's your help defense inside is what Michigan State was doing as well as any time perhaps this season. It was a spectacular defensive effort by MSU. And it is that reason when you start filling out your NCAA brackets, I'm not going to tell you to take them all the way to the Final Four, all right? But what I am going to tell you is I want you to take that into consideration. Because what we're going to do when we fill out those brackets is we look for key players, names we recognize, and who can put the ball through the hoop. Michigan State struggled with their three-point shooting again, overall, unfortunately. Okay, it's not who they are. 4 for 13. But they got out in transition. They played really good defense. They were active defensively. Coaches will tell you that. Are you switching? And when you're switching, are you switching hard? Are you crawling over screens or under screens? Whatever the coaching staff tells them to do. Are they doing it aggressively? Are they doing it with a purpose? Michigan State had active hands, active feet, and did a hell of a job sagging down low when appropriate. Really impressive win, because that's a really good Purdue offense. And the Spartans held them to 66 points. Yes, Purdue shot, 51%, but they held them to 66 points. And they were really good in the second half. So it's a big win. It's a fun win for them, and it pulls them to within a half game of Michigan for the Big Ten lead. No team has more overall wins in the Big Ten than MSU. They've got 21. And they match Michigan for most wins in the Big Ten. So impressive win for MSU, 74-66. Here's our poll question for the day. Which Lions free agent would you rather have the team re-sign? Is it guard Kevin Zeitler? Is it cornerback Carlton Davis? Is it linebacker Derek Barnes? Or is it somebody else? Who that somebody else would be, I'm really not sure. But perhaps there's somebody on your mind that Anzaworke might be one of those guys. Okay. But I thought I'd go with others since there are other names out there that you might find and deem a little bit more important or just as important. And you got to take the finances into it too. So vote as often as you like at XB Mornings, at XB Mornings, and we'll give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. 8:35 today, we'll talk a little NHL, a little Red Wings, and Four Nations tournament with our friend Ken Cal. He is the radio voice of Detroit Red Wings hockey. We'll get to that at 8:35 for sure. When we come back, speaking of the Four Nations tournament, some fighting words taking place from one of the teams that are gearing up for Thursday night's championship match in Boston. We'll get to that when we come back on X's and Bros. This hour of our program, probably brought to you by our friends at Ferris Coffee. They're in Grand Rapids and available throughout the country in all 50 states.
Rock legend Peter Frampton comes alive. Peter Frampton, the Let's Do It Again tour returns Saturday, April 19th to Soaring Eagle Casino. Tickets start at $73 and are on sale now at the box office or etix.com. Peter Frampton, April 19th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Save a good deal more at Meijer with bulk Gala, Fuji, or Pink Lady apples, just 99 cents a pound. Plus, during the 7 for $7 sale, you pay $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more on participating items, like Meijer frozen vegetables, Bush's beans, Red Gold canned tomatoes, Meijer facial tissue, and Powerade sports drink. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale. Now that's the good life. Exclusions apply. See all deals in-store or in the Meijer app.
Coming right at you, the excitement you've been waiting for. Eagle Casino and Sports, the mobile casino made in Michigan, made for Michigan. Play slots and table games with live dealers at one exciting site, playeagle.com. Sign up today and get a match deposit up to $1,500. That's right, up to $1,500 plus 100 free spins. Eagle Casino and Sports. Go to playeagle.com and start winning today. Must be 21 or older and in Michigan to play.
Attention, Michigan fans. It isn't a Michigan game day without a Michigan-made beer. Founders Brewing Company, a proud supporter of the University of Michigan Athletics Department, has the perfect beer for you with their Michigan Pilsner. Crafted with only the best locally sourced Michigan hops and the highest quality ingredients to deliver a smooth, crisp taste. Upgrade your game day traditions with their easy drinking Michigan Pilsner. Founders Brewing Company, proud sponsor of Michigan Athletics. Welcome to Craft.
I always tell my guys it's not fair when you throw lobs to Cohen because, hell, I could throw a lob to Cohen and he could dunk it. You don't even doesn't even have to be close to perfect. But Jace threw a hell of a lob to him. He penetrated in, and that's another guy, man. I mean, 2 for 3 from the 3, 4 for 4, gets 12 points, 3 assists, no turnovers, efficient as the day is long. So those were big plays early when we weren't shooting as well.
Scott Mizzo, after his team's win over Purdue last night, and not just those dunks early on, but you could argue a little bit later on too. It started an 8-2 run over a 2-14 span late. They opened the second half on an 8-0 run. I think they had 8 dunks in the game was the final tally. MSU was up tight at the break, but they are now undefeated when they lead at the half. They were up 33-31 at the halftime score. And they were very efficient, obviously, in the second half, as we mentioned, 68%, 17 to 25 in the second half. They had the slight edge in rebounding overall and in the second half. And they also outscored Purdue 42 to 24 in the paint. So a really impressive win for MSU. If you've got thoughts on it, the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. You can always text the show, Sports Radio, to 21,000. There are the phrase shots fired is oftentimes used in sports. And apparently Canada has had enough of the love that the United States is getting as they get ready for the Four Nations Tournament Championship game tomorrow night in Boston. There's a ton of stars in this tournament, especially on the Canadian side. And when you have something like this, most people are going to gravitate toward the stars. Oftentimes, though, in games like this, it's the guys who are not viewed as the 5-star players who make a difference. And I think for Canada, maybe a Brandon Hagel, who got in that tussle with Matthew Tkachuk a second into the game the other night, Saturday night, might be considered one of those guys. Apparently, there's a little bit, you get the sense there's a little animosity toward the two sides when it comes to Brandon Hagel. There are certain players, you talk to them and they'll say, that's a really talented team over there. That is a team that plays hard. They're deep. They give them due respect, if you will. Here's what Brandon Hagel said yesterday. He said, we're out there playing for the flag, not the cameras, which I find pretty incredible because I don't think Matthew Tkachuk and his brother Brady were playing for the cameras when they beat Finland. Each had 2 goals. And if they were, lack of a better phrase, pissed off that many of the people in Montreal who were Canadians were booing the American national anthem, that's the ultimate playing for the flag, not playing for the cameras, isn't it? Or am I wrong there? Anyway, he continued. He said, that's a part of Canada that we have in there. We don't need to initiate anything. We don't have any group chats going on. We're going out there, playing our game and giving it everything and doing it for our country. So the assumption, and I hate to assume, but I think it's fair to read into what somebody says specifically. They're not talking in generalities, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with poking the bear, and I don't think there's sure as hell anything wrong with you standing your ground, sticking up for yourself, calling out somebody else you think to be disingenuous. It's all right. I got no problem with it. I just think it's important that you can now dissect it. When you say they are playing for the cameras, are you suggesting that they started the fight just so they could get on social media and get first and foremost in front of the cameras? Because if that were the case, why wouldn't you have done that from the very get-go in Finland? Instead, they let their 2 goals, Matthew Tkachuk, 2 goals and an assist, and then Brady Tkachuk, 2 goals, kind of do the talking. I don't think they were playing for the cameras at all. They played their ass off against Canada. When he says, we don't need to initiate anything, has he never been on a team where they tried to set a tone? That's a little surprising to me, okay? I'm sure he's tried to set a tone once in a while. There are players who feel like their team needs something at some point. I've told you the story about Greg Maddux, who thought one of the most important games he ever had was when he, in an inning, plunked an opposing player, knowing that if he didn't get to a certain inning, he would be sent down to the minors as a rookie. What did he do? He hit the guy. He thought it was better for his team than it was for himself. He thought about his team over himself. And when he came back, Andre Dawson said, that's my guy. He sent a message. Your guy hit ours, I'm going to hit yours. And it made an impact with the most important veteran on his team. Don't tell me that certain teams feel the need to jumpstart something. Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk both felt like, and it's, I've not been one of those guys who've defended them to the hill for how they play. I personally like how they play. I like the edge. I like the toughness. I like the power forward in both of them. When people sit there and complain that they pick on smaller guys, they're matched up with the person they're against. They can't sit there, skate by the bench and say, I want you before the puck drops. They have to go with who they're matched up against. Anyway, certain players feel like their team needs something. Could be a hard screen. Folks, we love the Detroit Pistons. You don't think they tried to set a tone early in a game? If you don't think that, go back and watch some of the docuseries on them. What are they saying? Constantly. We wanted you to know you were here and going to be in a dogfight. Whether it was Boston, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, it didn't really matter. All right? He says, we didn't need to initiate anything. We don't have any group chats going on. Therein lies right there his issue. The fact they talked about it before the game. Both Tkachuk brothers and JT Miller, all 3 of them got in a fight. It worked. Was it the sole reason that their team won? I don't know how much that fight inspired Dylan Larkin to score the game-winning goal, to make it 2-1 and then eventually assist on Jake Gensel's second goal of the night to make it 3-1 in the final. But it set a tone that everybody else oftentimes follows. We're going out there to play the game, give it everything, and do it for our country. I don't think there was ever a better example of doing it for your country than what the Tkachuk brothers and JT Miller did. Part of the reasoning they did that is because they took offense to what was taking place during the national anthem. They knew it was coming. And I'm sure part of that text string was, if this happens, this is what we're going to do about it. Are you in? What is wrong with that? Do you expect them to just go, oh, this is cool. Go ahead and boo us. That's fine. Inspiration, dedication, leadership, whatever word you want to use. Some people may call it Bush League. We see fights all the time in hockey, and we applaud it. Guys set it up because they feel like they're going to be disrespected or their country is, and suddenly it's a bad thing. I applaud them. I think it's awesome. You want to call that staged? I call it them being prepared. and being emotionally ready. Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. The text is Sports Radio to 21,000 on this Wednesday morning. X's and Bros, brought to you by Ferris Coffee.
At Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, the legendary Tower of Power.
Down to the nightclub.
Saturday night, March 8th, and same show, same night. It's war. Tickets start at $47 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. Get yourself to Bump City. March 8th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. War and Tower of Power. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Save a good deal more at Meijer with bulk Gala, Fuji, or Pink Lady apples, just 99 cents a pound. Plus, during the 7 for $7 sale, you pay $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more on participating items, like Meijer frozen vegetables, Bush's beans, Red Gold canned tomatoes, Meijer facial tissue, and Powerade sports drink. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale. Now that's the good life. Exclusions apply. See all deals in-store or in the Meijer app.
Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Coming right at you, the excitement you've been waiting for. Eagle Casino and Sports, the mobile casino made in Michigan, made for Michigan. Play slots and table games with live dealers at one exciting site, playeagle.com. Sign up today and get a match deposit up to $1,500. That's right, up to $1,500 plus 100 free spins. Eagle Casino and Sports. Go to playeagle.com and start winning today. Must be 21 or older and in Michigan to play.
It's unbelievable. I compared it to Joe DiMaggio's 56-game, hit streak, and obviously it still stands, right? Like, it's just one of those things that and for me, it's a lot different. He recruited me. I'm 54, so it means he's old. When he was an assistant here. And so I've known him for a really long time. And, he's done it the right way. He's worked it. It's hard, man. Like battling like everybody else in competition, but also battling your own people. I think people don't understand that the people that support you battle also, because when you raise your expectations and you go to 8 Final Fours and 10 Big Ten championships, like people expect that. Like as a coach, what people expect from you is your best year. So if he doesn't win the national championship, win the Big Ten, he's
That is such a good soundbite. It really is. I mean, it really helps educate. When we collectively, as a fan base, forget that it's Tom Izzo. That's Matt Painter, by the way, head coach of Purdue, talking about Tom Izzo. Forget that it's Izzo for a minute, all right? And think of, and I've said this time and time again, think of all the things that he is asked to do to that university. He's not unique in that regard. All right, let's understand that. But anybody who's great, don't tell me that Alabama didn't ask Nick Saban to do the same damn thing, because they did. All right. So this happens. I'm not saying that he's a trailblazer in this and that he's the only one who's had to deal with it. When you are successful at what you do, people come tugging at you. So the school wants a certain recruit in a different sport. A school wants a certain coach for a different sport. Who are they going to call? Not Ghostbusters. They're going to call him. That's great. Okay. He should. Doesn't always have to do it because he's busy, but he sets aside the time to do it. Fan bases, and you see this with him all the time. You probably see it at Clemson. And say what you want about Dabo Swinney. The dude is successful. And don't tell me Clemson alumni, Clemson coaches, Clemson athletic directors, presidents. We need something. This is a big, big deal for us. We could really use this donor's money. We need you out here. And they're asked to do it. Now, I don't know how often they do it, but I know Izzo does it quite a bit. And that's the reason I use him as an example. So it's not unique. Michigan has had it plenty. I'm sure they had it with Bo Schembechler. I'm sure they had it with Red Berenson at times. Certain guys make a difference. And Tom Izzo, without question, makes a difference. Now, is the basketball coach or football coach the most important on campus? Most people would tell you they are. Some would argue, I don't know if you feel like this is the case, some would argue it would be the golf coach. You probably shake your head at that. You go, what the hell are you talking about? Answer me this. How many programs in the country as a fundraiser have a golf outing? Does football have a golf outing? Absolutely. Does basketball have a golf outing? Absolutely. Does golf say, let's have a basketball game and raise money? No, they don't. So when you look at a golf coach, what he does is he's like, hey, man, I can get you on just about anywhere you want. So how about you and that donor going to play fill in the blank? And I'll get you on that course. You guys can go down, have a great time, and you guys can talk about raising money left and right. I don't think people, I don't think people look at it like that, do they? They look at it strictly at wins and the high revenue generating sports. And I understand that. But I'm just telling you, keep that in the back of your mind one day. I'm not telling you the golf course is the most important. I want you to know that when somebody is trying to do business, the golf course is a really good place to do it, first and foremost. Second of all, you want to enjoy the round. You'd love to comp the round. The golf coach can help you with that. You want to play a special place, all right? In order to do that, you have to know somebody. That golf coach knows everybody if they're well connected, and most are. I said this about the longtime Tigers clubhouse manager, Jim Schmenkel, the other day. You need to get on he took Alan Trammell and members of the Tigers alum to the Masters because he knows people at the Masters. Any city we go to, he knows the best courses and the people who run it. And he helps them, they help him. That's life, okay? I'll do you a favor. He's a friend of mine, you know? It's not good, fellas. I'm just telling you, he's a friend of mine. So this is the way golf works, and I'm sure many of them are really important to their programs, and they can help you in a lot of different ways. It's just something to consider as you move forward. When you have this discussion, Trent and his buddies have this discussion. Look at all the things that Tom Izzo does for his team. Yes, he does. He does it for his school, not just his team. He does it for his school, and it's awesome that he does it. And I give him a ton of credit. And I think a lot of coaches do that, a lot of them, all right? But answer me this. Do you know who the MSU golf coach is? You probably don't. I mean, you're a Spartan. Do you know it? No.
I don't.
Okay, so Casey Luban is the golf coach. I'm sure he's very influential because he helps the athletic director if he plays golf. He helps the team, the school president, if he plays golf, get in touch with different places that you can play and do some business for 18 holes. It's really important. Okay. Alumni come back. Hey, I'd love to play X. Let me make a phone call. Anyway, I digress.
That's a great perspective, Shep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
never
something.
thought of it that way. Never.
Right. I mean, you just don't. We immediately just associate it with the big names, and I understand why, because I do it too. All right. This is not something that I came up with. I learned this from talking with coaches and basketball, football, golf coaches, and so on and so forth. I mean, at some point before the fall, Michigan State's going to have a football golf outing, and they're going to have all these guys back. And these guys are influential, and Casey's going to help them with his golf swing, or Casey's going to pair him with a really good player, or Casey at some point is going to say, you know what, where do you live? Oh, down in Atlanta. How about if I set you up here? Oh, you live in Florida? I know the pro at Doral. Why don't I get you on that course? I mean, it's helpful, right? But anyway, so Matt Painter's comment was a really good one in the sense that coaches are, you know, it's good because there's an expectation. You have an expectation of Tom Izzo. Some people unfairly are expecting a national championship all the time. I think it's fair to assume they should have had more than one. I think he would tell you the same thing. That's okay. The victories are unbelievable. The amount of people that come and watch that team is unbelievable. The amount of attention it gets. If Tom Izzo's not in that chair, Michigan State University is not as a universal name as it is in sports. You can talk about what Mark D'Antonio did all you want. He never won a national championship. He's never viewed as the best coach in Big Ten history. He's probably not viewed as the best college football coach. Maybe during his time, there was a little bit of an era where it was like, you know what? Yeah, he's really good. Is anyone going to confuse him with the great football coaches of all time? No, they're not. Tom Izzo's in the same conversation, whether you believe it should be true or not. But when you have Mike Krzyzewski talking about just how great of a leader he has been, when you have others who have accomplished and amassed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of victories, praising him for how he's done it right and what he's meant to the game of college basketball, not just at MSU, but at the game of college basketball, he's one of those guys that is in the same vein as Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and Dean Smith and John Wooden. I'm not saying he's better than them. I'm saying when you talk about guys who have made an impact on college basketball, he's in that mix. People will use coaches, not just players, but they'll use coaches who have made that type of impact. You could go back if you want to Gene Cady. You can talk about Lou Carnesecca. You can talk about Rick Pitino. That's fine. I'm not saying you'd be wrong there. But oftentimes the name mentioned is Tom Izzo too. The expectations from his fan base is one thing. No one's going to exceed the expectations he has for himself and his team. But his fan base, but probably more importantly, his school. The pressure is much more intense than we really make it out to be because we live in our bubble. We're like, this is what the media expects. This is what you and I expect. Me and my buddy, this is what we expect. What about all the other people that when you try to get away from something, think about it, man, I just want to get away, right? And all you do is have people coming up and reminding you in the safe space that you thought you could actually get away. Sure, he goes home and there's no way he talks basketball because it's a safe space. But it'd be nice if he could walk his campus every once in a while or walk into some type of meeting with some administrators and not have to do it all the time. And answer the question that the media gives you all the time. Hey, what happened last night? How'd you lose 3 out of 4? How come you won 13 straight and then lost 3 out of 4? Then you got to do it all over again after the media's already asked you that. And all the people who had given up on you, all the people said, you know what? See, this is what they do. Maybe different players, sometimes even a different coaching staff, and many times a different schedule. But this is what they do. That's how we paint it. It's grab me the brush, dip it into the paint can, up and down, up and down. This is who this team is. This is who, hell, think about this. We do it about the conference. We do it about the conference where it's, you know what? Big Ten can't win a national championship. Why not? Well, we've seen Michigan get there. We've seen MSU get there. We've seen Wisconsin get there. We've seen Ohio State get there. We've seen Purdue get there. They just can't seem to get over the hump. You're going to compare Purdue to Michigan State and to Ohio State and Wisconsin. You're going to compare Michigan to the failures of Illinois. I mean, come on. What are we doing? But that's the broad brush we use, right? We do the same thing with our programs, even our favorite programs. Don't tell me there isn't a time where you talked about your favorite team or your favorite program and said, or didn't say, oh, this is what happens. They play a tough schedule at the beginning, and it really toughens them up for the Big Ten, and they have really good success, but then they fade a little bit, and then they catch fire. This is how it always works. No, it's not how it always works. You think it does, but that's not how it always works. How many people do you know just said, you know what? They've lost 3 out of 4. See, when the schedule gets really tough, this is when they seem to fade a little bit. This is why I don't believe in them. Take a select few losses. Forget about the wins. Forget about the emotional high you were on during the 13-game rule. Don't do that.
The 9-0 start to Big Ten play.
Just all I want you to do is talk strictly about the losses. When we use the cliche, what have you done for me lately? This is not just, a media catchphrase. This is what the media and other people have observed from fans. I don't know if Michigan State's going to win the Big Ten championship in regular season. I don't know if they're going to win the Big Ten tournament. I don't know how far they're going to go in the NCAA tournament. I don't know what seed they're going to be or anything. And you know what? Neither do you. But what we can judge is when a team wins 21 games, more than any other team in the Big Ten, when they've got tied for the most wins in Big Ten play so far. And I don't care if it's against Northwestern or Maryland or who. But at some point, beating Purdue is pretty impressive. If you believe in Purdue. And if you don't believe in Purdue, can you tell me who you believe in? That's what I want to know. We're very selective. Early on, when Purdue was beating the crap out of teams and they were atop the Big Ten, then you said during the schedule, you know what? Let's see how they do against Purdue. And then when they beat Purdue, because Purdue's lost 3 in a row, you know what? You got them at a good time. If I flip that on you and say that about Indiana beating MSU, well, they got them at a good time because they had been struggling. You would say, no. This is who MSU is. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
We're very...
Mental gymnastics is what I call that.
It is mental gymnastics. That's a great phrase for it. It is mental gymnastics. Take your time. Enjoy what you're seeing. And when the season's over, I'm not saying you can't judge during the season. That's not where I'm going with it. I'm just saying sometimes there are highs and lows in every season, aren't there? Every season. Most of the season for the Lions, it was a high. I think you probably were a little concerned when they lost to Buffalo because you thought something got exposed. And yet, look at how good they did defensively against Minnesota, who was a high-scoring team. Were you completely convinced that they had fixed their issues? Some yes, some no. I don't know how often you expressed it. Probably not very much until Washington ran roughshod over them. And then it's, you know what? I knew this was going to happen. Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember you telling me. I don't remember you telling me that, Chris. I appreciate that, though. Good to talk to you. Enjoy what they're doing right now. You don't have to be impressed with every aspect of their game. I've said that. The three-point shooting stinks.
Yeah, you shouldn't be impressed with certain aspects of their game.
But their defense and their rebound are pretty freaking good, man.
Fast breaks, getting out and running.
Breaks, their help defense. Some of the things that I don't always recognize either, that we require a guy like last night, Robbie Hummel, for example, talking about. Really important to try and take a look at that. That's why, look, during the football season, what do we bring up during the Super Bowl? Travis Kelce, everybody's blaming Creed Humphrey in the offensive line. And I said, there was a couple of spots where it's on Travis Kelce. He didn't make a block. On two specific plays, he whiffed on blocks, forcing a sack on Patrick Mahomes. And what everybody said was what? Offensive line stinks. Now, overall, I would guess most of it is on the offensive line, more so than anybody else. But Travis Kelce is part of the offensive line sometimes. Those are some of the things that we need to kind of remind ourselves of. I got to do the same damn thing. But I love that quote from Matt Painter because you can hear it in his voice. He can totally relate, not just as a coach, but how hard it is to accumulate those wins. I would ask you this. Did you ever think Lou Henson was considered a really great coach in Big Ten history? I don't know many people who did.
Probably not.
No. And yet, he won 420, almost 430 games.
Yeah, the longevity,
That's pretty damn
sustained
good,
success.
man.
Yeah.
Like people remember Bobby Knight for throwing chairs and stuff, and that's on him. You win 662 games at Indiana? That's damn good, man.
You're almost numb to it.
He's a hell of a basketball coach. He made 24 NCAA appearances. He won 11 Big Ten championships, regular season, because they didn't have the Big Ten tournament back then, and 3 national titles. He was 5-time Big Ten Coach of the Year. You don't do that if all you are is a hothead who likes to throw chairs and insult reporters. You got to be a damn good coach. And by the way, in order to be a good coach, you got to recruit good players. It's food for thought. It's a really good comment from Matt Painter, and we appreciate it. All right, when we come back, well, speaking of football, we were talking a little bit about the Super Bowl, a little bit of an eye roll moment for a soon-to-be NFL quarterback. We'll get to that right after this on X's and Bros.
Coming right at you, the excitement you've been waiting for. Eagle Casino and Sports, the mobile casino made in Michigan, made for Michigan. Play slots and table games with live dealers at one exciting site, playeagle.com. Sign up today and get a match deposit up to $1,500. That's right, up to $1,500 plus 100 free spins. Eagle Casino and Sports. Go to playeagle.com and start winning today. Must be 21 or older and in Michigan to play.
It's time to go on the court.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. It's a new day. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com. Trent Valley here. The Pistons are taking all the rest they can get before what promises to be a neck-and-neck finish down the stretch in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Detroit has 27 games remaining, and with a 29-26 record, they sit 2.5 games ahead of Orlando for the 6th seed. The Pistons do have a strength of schedule that shouldn't be taken lightly, as the remaining foes on the schedule have a combined winning percentage of 49. Assuming Cade Cunningham continues his clip of 25.5 points, 6 boards, and 9.5 assists per game, the Pistons should absolutely have the playoffs on their radar, and anything short of their current comfortable 6-seed standing should be considered a disappointment.
Save a good deal more at Meijer with bulk Gala, Fuji, or Pink Lady apples, just 99 cents a pound. Plus, during the 7 for $7 sale, you pay $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more on participating items, like Meijer frozen vegetables, Bush's beans, Red Gold canned tomatoes, Meijer facial tissue, and Powerade sports drink. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale. Now that's the good life. Exclusions apply. See all deals in-store or in the Meijer app.
You've heard him on Kill Tony, the #1 live podcast in the world.
He's always working on her craft. Macaroni and cheese.
Friday, March 14th, Tony Hinchcliffe at Soaring Eagle.
Your blood type is delicious.
Tickets start at $72 and are on sale now at the box office or etix.com. Check out the hottest comedy of 2025, Tony Hinchcliffe. March 14th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Relax, I only have so much time. I'm killing too hard.
More at SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Hey, Michigan fans, did you know that your favorite craft brewery is also a proud supporter of Michigan athletics? That's right. Founders Brewing Company has been brewing up high-quality, highly rated beers like All Day IPA, Michigan Pilsner, and their new Mortal Bloom right here in Michigan for over 25 years. As a proud supporter of Michigan athletics, they're here to help you celebrate every Wolverine win with the perfect beer in hand. Whether you're at the game, tailgating, or watching from home, there's nothing like enjoying a Michigan-made beer from Founders. Learn more at foundersbrewing.com.
Back with you on X's and Bros, second hour of the program. Ken Cal's going to join us at 8:35. The Red Wings play-by-play voice on radio will talk about the Wings and their turnaround, talk about the NHL in general, the momentum perhaps they can gain from the Four Nations tournament that concludes tomorrow night in Boston with Team USA playing Canada, and we'll talk about that as well. Here's the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. The text is Sports Radio to 21,000, and Meijer brings us this hour of the program. A few things real quick before I get into this eye-rolling moment from a college football player who's about to be an NFL player and perhaps the number one overall pick. I don't know if anybody watched the golf last night. I try not to. I watched Michigan State play Purdue, and that was enough for me, all right? I enjoyed it. I was impressed with it. Michigan State, a big win. They're 21st overall. They're 12th in the Big Ten. They play Michigan on Friday. Then we want to send you to, by the way, here on the Michigan Sports Network. Bill Simonson will do his show from Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort on Thursday. You can go there and see if you win 2 tickets and a 2-night stay at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. And we're going to take you to the game and bring you back. And you're going to have dinner with former Michigan head coach John Beilein Thursday night. All you got to do is text Dusty to 21,000. Dusty to 21,000 to register. So do that as often as you can. We are going to do that for the last game of the year too, Michigan State, Michigan, which I like, by the way. I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool that you keep that type of tradition. It would be neat to do that. Is it always Michigan, Michigan State? That's the really good question. But I wish basketball would kind of embrace that football rivalry weekend, if you will. Make sure it's at a key point in time, and you don't have to do it just Michigan, Michigan State. Do Indiana, Purdue. That's a really good. Do Wisconsin, Minnesota, even though Minnesota is historically not very good. When you can find a rivalry, don't create it just for the sake of creating it, but put USC and UCLA in. Okay, I think it's really good for the sport. Too many times, instead of doing what's good for a school, do what's good for the sport. Do what's good for the conference. Have a bigger picture in mind, for crying out loud. But anyway, I didn't watch the golf, the indoor golf, the Tiger Golf League. I'm not going there. It's not that I have anything against Tiger Woods. It's just, I don't need to see guys hit off a mat, for crying out loud. I'm not going to a simulator to watch guys. Okay, I want to see them play on the weekends. That's good enough for me. Watching Ludwig Oberg, do what he did last weekend was fun for me. I'm not doing it on a Tuesday night watching Tiger Woods, but I did see some highlights of this moment that he called the most embarrassing in his career. He asked the caddy, why you need a caddy, I don't know. But he asked the caddy, how far? And he goes, 99. Tiger Woods thought it was 99 yards. It was 199. Why it's difficult for the caddy to say 199 instead of 99. Why it's difficult for the caddy to actually add that one extra word, that one number, is beyond me. But Tiger Woods pulled out a certain wedge. It's not a pitching wedge. It had to be a gap, right? He said, and he took a 3/4 swing. But his teammates were on the side going, he's got a wedge. Why does he have a wedge? You can hear them talking. Tiger Woods hits it. It comes up, obviously, well short, 100 yards short. And he said, and somebody said, why do you have a wedge? And he said 99 yards. I heard him say 99 yards. So there was a big to-do about that. It was pretty funny. It's pretty good on social media. If that's the worst moment in Tiger Woods' golfing career, the most embarrassing moment, I think he's going to be just fine. Been there, done that, right? Most people have. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is there's a bit of a soap opera / some drama taking place in Toronto, not because of the Four Nations, but because Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's at age 25, one of the best players in all of baseball. Is that fair to say? Would you agree with that? Yeah. He's got a career OPS plus of 137, which is pretty damn good. In 6 years at the Major League Baseball level, he's been an all-star 4 times. Maybe that's a little misleading. Second in the MVP in 2021. Many people would consider him an elite hitter. He's never been on the IL, so he's a durable player, which is really good. He's played I mean, 123 games his rookie year was the fewest games he's played, and it wasn't because of injury. So I like players like that. He's improved his defense. No one would ever confuse him with Paul Goldschmidt or Matt Olson, but he's improved his defense. He's in the lineup primarily to hit. You and I both know that. He gave Toronto a Monday mandate. We've got, if you want me to an extension, it's got to be done by this time. He didn't want to report to camp and have people asking him constantly about the extension. I hate to tell him this. People are going to ask him about the extension no matter what. But it got me thinking a little bit. And he's 25. And I read an article yesterday where the author was suggesting Toronto's in a tough spot because Juan Soto said no to them. Okay. One team got Juan Soto said no to the Yankees too. Juan Soto said no to the Dodgers too. Wow. Does that mean those teams are in trouble? Hell no. But they said that. They thought, Alex Bregman said no. Shohei Ohtani rebuffed them. So Toronto's in a tough spot. Perhaps. I mean, I still think they got two really good players in Bo Bichette, who needs to clean up his defense a little bit. And I think George Springer's a hell of a player. I think Marcus Simeon's used to be a hell of a player and now is in Texas, and they missed out on that. So how much do you read into it? I'm not sure. But what's interesting is this. At age 25, people are starting to whisper, is he gone because you didn't get him what he wanted? Do you think there's any of that nervousness when it comes to the Tigers and Tarek Skubal? Because Vladimir Guerrero is the face of that franchise. And again, 25 years old and a star, perhaps not a superstar, but he's definitely a star in Major League Baseball. You'd like to keep him. Yes, for sure. Tarek Skubal, would you consider him the face of the Tigers? I think that's fair to say. When you win the Triple Crown, you win a Cy Young, you are considered the second best by some people. Others would say the best left-hander. Some people would say the second best pitcher in all of baseball. There's an argument for Zach Wheeler and a couple of other guys, but Tarek Skubal's in that conversation. So it's fair to say he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the best at his position. Not many Tigers, we talked about this yesterday on X's and Bros, not many people can say that about any other position on the Tigers. Maybe Riley Green, one of the best left fielders in baseball. Who's the face of this franchise? I think most people would come to a conclusion that it's Tarek Skubal. If that's the case, and he hasn't given a mandate like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had, but if that's the case, should we be nervous collectively as a Tigers fan base that Tarek Skubal hasn't signed? The difference is Tarek Skubal has another year left on his deal. But there's going to come a point in time where he's going to feel, or at least his camp will, disrespect is too strong of a word. We throw it around way too often. He's going to feel like he's not as important as perhaps many people feel he is. They're probably working on this. But remember, there was a little put off there when they came to him with a short-term deal. And his camp quickly waved it away. You remember that story that was out there, of course. At some point, you're going to get caught up in the season. And we're going to go, man, this is great. They're off to a really good start. What a big road trip out west. And at some point, you're going to go, hopefully, they still haven't signed this guy to an extension. Why not? What are they waiting for? And he's probably going to be thinking, you know what? I'm going to be 30 pretty soon, and I still don't have that deal. That's not cool. And there's going to come a point where if you don't get it done, he's going to say, screw this. They have not done me right. I'm going to do a Max Fried or something like that. I'm not sure Tiger fans are thinking much about it because they're too excited for spring training to start. But when you read things like that about Vladimir Guerrero, who's, 4 years younger and he's upset about it. I can't help but wonder if Tarek Skubal is thinking about it once in a while. Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. This hour of our show is brought to you by Meyer. Remember, Ken Cal, radio voice of the Red Wings, joins us 8:35 on X's and Bros.
Friday, April 4th at Soaring Eagle Casino. Los Lobos and Los Lonely Boys. The Brotherhood Tour. Tickets start at $47 and are on sale now at the Soaring Eagle box office and etix.com. April 4th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, East LA meets Texican. The Brotherhood Tour. Los Lobos and Los Lonely Boys. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Huge here with an invitation for everybody to join Van Andel Institute and Fox Motors Hockey for Hockey Fights Cancer at Southside Ice Arena in Byron Center on February 21st through the 23rd. Join the fun and help raise awareness and funds research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's. Learn more at foxmotorshockey.com. That is foxmotorshockey.com.
Save a good deal more at Meijer with bulk Gala, Fuji, or Pink Lady apples, just 99 cents a pound. Plus, during the 7 for $7 sale, you pay $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more on participating items, like Meijer frozen vegetables, Bush's beans, Red Gold canned tomatoes, Meijer facial tissue, and Powerade sports drink. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale. Now that's the good life. Exclusions apply. See all deals in-store or in the Meijer app.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Inspiration. We were talking about it earlier when it comes to Team USA against Canada tomorrow night in the Four Nations tournament. And Brandon Hagel said in so many words, we don't need text messages to get us fired up. We don't need the cameras. We play for our country. It was a direct shot at both Matthew and Brady Tkachuk from what took place Saturday night. That's his privilege. That's fine. If that gets him going, that's cool. If the fighting or the setting of the tone gets the Tkachuk brothers going, that's fine too. We've seen in sports time and time again how certain things are used as motivation. Not everybody has to come out and do a dance like Ray Lewis, but people can go out and do something that they feel generates the necessary emotion to get them through. All right. I don't know if you saw the highlight from a Georgia pitcher the other night. He threw a final strikeout of a guy and then threw his glove in the air and started pointing at people like he was, a wide receiver. I don't get it. But personally, next time I played that dude, I would make sure I did everything I could to hit one back up the box. Anyway, Cam Ward is going to be a high draft pick in the NFL draft. Teams are going to reach probably as much as any other draft for quarterbacks this year.
It's not a very deep quarterback draft at all.
I don't think it is. Most people will tell you Cam Ward's the number one quarterback prospect. So he's going to be a high draft pick. Is he going to go number one or is it going to be Travis Hunter? I'm not sure. But he's probably top five, right? And his numbers have been good. He threw over 4,100 yards and 36 touchdowns this past year. In 2023, he threw for 3,700 yards and 25 scores. And the year before that, he threw for 3,000 yards and 23 scores. So he has a legitimate resume. But I don't know if you heard what he said the other day. But when people were asking him about him being drafted, he vows that he's going to remember the teams that didn't draft him. That's his mindset going in. His quote, "You're either going to draft me or you're not." I don't know if he's been listening to AJ Hinch. Maybe he listened to AJ Hinch a couple of years ago or was it last year? If you don't want to come here, that's fine, but we're going to beat you. Okay, good. Let's see if you can do that. Ward says, you're either going to draft me or you're not. If you don't draft me, that's your fault. You got to remember, you're the same team that's got to play me the rest of my career, and I'm going to remember that. Okay.
Does he think he's unique in that regard?
What's that?
Does he think he's unique in that regard? Being motivated that way. I mean, locally, we know Amon-Ra St. Brown knows the names of every single receiver taken ahead of him. He took that personally. I mean, these guys find ways to motivate themselves, to your point.
There are 15 wide receivers taken ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And he knows them in order.
It might be a little different. Because he was a fourth-round draft pick in 2021. Does he think – I'd have to ask him this. Does he think he should have been drafted above Jamar Chase? Should he have been drafted above Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith? He thinks he was the best wide receiver in the draft. Good for him. I have no problem with that. I don't think you do either. I mean, I think most people who are competitive people and type A personalities feel like they are the best. Go out and prove it. He's proven to be one of them.
Yeah, it's a good edge to have, and you're right. It's different when we're dealing with the top three picks.
I love the edge. There's nothing wrong with that. But Amon-Ra St. Brown before the draft didn't come out and say this stuff.
Right.
He says it now. The other guys taken ahead of him: Kadarius Toney, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, Dwayne Eskridge, Western Michigan, Josh Palmer, Dylan Brown, Amari Rogers. Does Nico Collins say this? It's not a knock on Amon-Ra St. Brown, because I've already said I love the fact that he's willing to use this as his type of motivation. That's cool. He's not the only one. He's not the first one. Won't be the last. That's fine. But does Nico Collins ever say that? Because I don't know. Nico Collins was drafted in the third round, 89th overall.
Yeah, and you're right. It took until Nico Collins, basically. It went from Chase to Collins to get to another name that would even hold a candle to St. Brown.
Do you know who Anthony Schwartz is?
No.
Sounds like an accountant. But he was a wide receiver drafted before Amon-Ra St. Brown. How about Dave Fitzpatrick? Not
familiar.
Right.
Sounds like a quarterback.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. So those are the 15 wide receivers taken ahead of him. He knows them all by name. That's great. It's a cute feature, all that other stuff. It doesn't mean squat unless he goes out and performs, and he does perform year in and year out. That's why he got the big deal, and rightfully so. And that's why many Lions fans love him too. Look, I've told this story about Whit Merrifield quite a bit. Whit Merrifield's a guy I really enjoyed covering from afar while calling Tigers baseball with him in Kansas City because I really respect him. I think he's a hell of a hitter. I think he's a hell of a player. I love what he brings. Sure, he's versatile, can play infield, can play outfield, steals bases. He's a really smart base stealer, or was in his prime, and makes contact. He's a tough out, all this other stuff. Production crew, anytime we used to get ready for the series against Kansas City, we used to have a conference call every morning, and people would ask, what are some of the storylines? And before they teed me up, they would say, all right, Shep, here we come. Let's go. You're going to talk about Whit Merrifield, aren't you? Well, when the guy leads the league in hits, I think it's pretty important. Well, when the guy has the best on-base percentage, when he has the numbers against the Tigers, yeah, I think it's pretty important that we, at some point in this series, and it's a 3-game set, I think it's at some point pretty important that we bring that up to the audience. But what I loved most about him is that chip on his shoulder. I loved that he played with an edge. I like guys like that. I liked Pete Rose. I liked players who get after it and aren't afraid to be physical in whatever sport it is. All right? That's why I loved guys like Wes Unseld. Doesn't mean I can't appreciate the George Gervins and Julius Ervings of the world. I sure as hell could. There's a part of you that as much as you hated the Boston Celtics, how did you not appreciate what Larry Bird did? Couldn't jump off a piece of paper, and yet he led his team in rebounding. Most people thought he wasn't good enough, but he's one of the best three-point shooters of his era. Wasn't super fast, but dude led the fast break as well as anybody in basketball. MVP multiple times, world champion multiple times. You got to be a tough SOB to do that. So I love it. Don't tell me you don't have a better appreciation now if you're an American hockey fan for the Tkachuk brothers. You thought they exemplified what the red, white, and blue is all about. It's great stuff, right? So I love the edge. And Whit Merrifield used to say he had a copy of a lineup that he took a picture of when he was, I think, in AA. The manager had him on the bench, misspelled his name. How do you not know my name? In other words, I wasn't important enough for you to know my name and how to spell it. I'm going to use that as motivation. Alex Bregman's a good example. Why do you think he wears number 2? Because he was the second overall pick in the draft out of LSU behind Dansby Swanson out of Vanderbilt, who won a national championship. He used it as motivation. When Houston used to match up with Dansby Swanson in Atlanta, Bregman oftentimes would say, put me at short. I want to show how much better I am than he is. It's not that he hated Dansby Swanson. He just used it as motivation. There's nothing wrong with that. Did he say that before the draft? Did he say, you know what, if you don't draft me, remember, I'm going to come back and haunt your ass? No. Cam Ward's doing that. If that's what motivates him, cool. He better rise. He better be ready. Because as he should call Caleb Williams and recognize just how tough the National Football League truly is. Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. You can text the program Sports Radio to 21,000. I didn't realize he had such a career that he could make such a statement. But again, if that's what motivates him, so be it. Ken Cal joins us, the Red Wings radio play-by-play voice at 8:35 here on X's and Bros. Stay tight.
Hey, Michigan, let's go big. I'm Herman Moore, Lions All-Pro wide receiver, and I'm talking real big-time winning on the hottest slots and table games on one incredible app. Eagle Casino and Sports.
Sign up now and get up to $1,500. That's right. We'll match your deposit for up to $1,500, and you'll get 100 free spins.
Eagle Casino and Sports. Made in Michigan, made for Michigan.
Must be 21 or older and in Michigan to play.
Save a good deal more at Meijer with bulk Gala, Fuji, or Pink Lady apples, just 99 cents a pound. Plus, during the 7 for $7 sale, you pay $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more on participating items, like Meijer frozen vegetables, Bush's beans, Red Gold canned tomatoes, Meijer facial tissue, and Powerade sports drink. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale. Now that's the good life. Exclusions apply. See all deals in-store or in the Meijer app.
Big wins are just one word away with Scrabble your way to winning at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Fridays in February from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. 2 lucky guests every hour will compete in Scrabble, racing to 70 points. The winner takes home $1,000 in premium play, while second place earns $500 premium play. Spell your way to winning a share of $42,000 in premium play. Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Your getaway reimagined. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com for complete rules and details.
Huge here with an invitation for everybody to join Van Andel Institute and Fox Motors Hockey for Hockey Fights Cancer at Southside Ice Arena in Byron Center on February 21st through the 23rd. Join the fun and help raise awareness and funds research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's. Learn more at foxmotorshockey.com. That is foxmotorshockey.com.
This Van Halen 1 or 2? Can't remember. I think it's 1. Which is an awesome album. I had this
Van Halen 1, yes.
Yeah. I had this debate with a friend of mine who is an accomplished singer, went to the University of Michigan in music, and he's amazing. He can sing Ave Maria without any music, without any word. He can just belt it out, and you're captivated. Like all friends of mine everywhere are asking, can he please sing it at our son or daughter's wedding? He's that talented. Great guy, very successful. Not as a singer, but when he was a singer. He and I had this debate one time. We were talking about great singers in music. And obviously you bring up, Whitney Houston, of course, and Adele, I guess. Barbara Streisand and certain guys who have a certain way about them. And
Celine Dion
would be a really good one. Yes. And so we got into the rock and roll aspect of it. And he said, David Lee Roth. And I dropped my beer and I go, dude, I love you. And I said, and I really respect you, but you could not be more wrong. That dude can't sing at all. He can screech. He can yell.
He's a hell of an entertainer too, but he's notoriously known for his bad voice.
Yeah, he's a hell of an entertainer. He's a hell of a frontman. But from a voice standpoint, from a carrying a note, he sucks. I said, now if you said Freddie Mercury, of course, Steve Perry from Journey, of course. And I'm talking about rock. I'm not talking about Luther Vandross, who's got an unbelievable voice, right? Or a Nat King Cole. But I said, if you said Sammy Hagar, I get it. David Lee Roth, he's a horrible singer.
Diamond Dave.
He's like one of the worst in rock and roll. My wife cringes every time I play AC/DC. Well, she actually cringes. Then she turns the radio up. And I said, look, I never claimed that Brian Johnson's a great singer. Never. I like the riffs. I like the words. I like the beat. I like the guitar solos. It fires me up, right? It's not going to work for Cam Ward, but it works for me. I never claimed that a guy like Brian Johnson
That's a good callback.
or even Bon Scott have great voices. It's not that I don't like Van Halen, because I do, but no way am I suggesting that David Lee Roth has one of the best rock voices of all time. I would argue he's got one of the worst. Let's go to the phone lines. The Meyer hotline is open for you, 866-838-4843. This hour of X's and Bros is brought to you by Meyer. Who do we have on this Wednesday morn?
We've got Mark down at Gun Lake, and he has some NBA thoughts for you.
Mark, what's going on today?
Good morning. I'm trying to stay warm in my bus. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for what you do. What's on your mind?
Good. Hey, do you remember in Game 7 in May of '88? This is the biggest contrast of styles I ever seen in basketball when Bird went up against Wilkins for the Hawks. I don't think I've ever seen any two contrasting styles duke it out on the basketball court as much as they did. Do you remember that game?
I do.
Game 7?
I do. Yeah, the back and forth.
gosh.
Yeah. That was the Eastern Conference.
gosh, that was-
that would be the Eastern Conference semifinals is what it would have been, right?
Right.
Because
That
the
was
Pistons
just
would play the Celtics.
athleticism. Yeah, that was like athleticism against someone that ran a chessboard. It was just back and forth. It was just unbelievable. When I was a kid, I'm sure that you probably remember this game. That the other second best game I ever watched was Ricky Sobers and Alvin Adams against Boston. Phoenix went into double overtime at Boston, and it was a late
I don't
game
remember that.
I think it was on CBS.
Yeah, I don't remember that. The game you're referring to, Wilkins had 47. Bird had 34, 20 in the fourth quarter.
Right.
With the Hawks and
That was-
Celtics. Now,
that was
so here would be my question. How you described it, you said athleticism against a guy who plays chess. The athleticism is automatically assumed that it goes to Dominique Wilkins. The chess is automatically assumed to Larry Bird. Why would you suggest and describe it that way? You don't think Larry Bird's athletic?
Well, no, you hinted at it earlier. Bird couldn't jump. He wasn't a fast sprinter.
That doesn't
And
mean he's not
Wilkins was
athletic,
above
though.
The rim well, no, he was very athletic, but he was not above the rim like Wilkins was. Wilkins was playing above the rim that whole game. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I would say Dominic
just
Wilkins
couldn't
was
believe
a quicker and faster player, no doubt. Larry Bird could play above the rim. Otherwise, you don't have as many rebounds. I think he's second leading all-time rebounder in maybe third in Boston Celtics history. I think it's, Parrish and Russell are ahead of him. I could be wrong there. I don't know my Boston sports off the top of my head, but I thought he was very athletic. I mean, some of the shots and some of the moves and some of the passes and some of the incredible shot-taking ability that Larry Bird had was amazing.
Right, and I think the chemistry, he was 2 or 3 plays ahead of everybody. That's why I was referring to the chess match there, because he knew where his guys were going to be. He knew what play to make, and Wilkins was just one-on-one. He was schooling everybody. That's why I use that terminology. And one more thing, I got to get rolling here. What do you think of the Pistons' chances if they play? Who is it third right now? Milwaukee?
Yeah, of passing Milwaukee? I think
no, playing them head-to-head in the playoffs.
Oh, playing them head-to-head.
Currently, right now, the Pistons would be playing the Knicks if the season ended today in the first round.
And I'm not going to lie. I mean, so what do you think of that matchup? I don't like it. I think it would be very challenging, but I do think, they could win a game in that series. Let's wait, and thanks for the phone call, Mark. Let's wait and see where we go with that, how we get to there. But
I love that we're talking about potential playoff scenarios, though. It's so refreshing with the Pistons. Hasn't been the case in like 10 years. But I'm with you, Shep. I think they could get a game off the Knicks. Knicks are a damn good team, though. I don't think the Pistons match up super well against them.
I think the Knicks are really good. If you said Milwaukee, Detroit's only a game back in Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, they could still catch them, and they're 2 back of Indiana for the 4.
I'm surprised at that. I really am. I'm surprised at how bad is probably incorrect. I think they've underachieved. I think Milwaukee is underachieved right now. Whose fault is that? Is that Doc Rivers? It
yes.
could be.
That's who I blame the most for it. But
because
they've got Giannis Antetokounmpo and Dame Lillard. Figure it out. You got to win more games.
They did trade for Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, and admittedly, I don't know how they've looked since. I haven't followed them closely enough. But clearly, they think it's going to help them. They gave up Chris Middleton.
He's only played 4 games for them. So
okay, yeah, because we had the All-Star break. But right. This is the push, Shep. The Pistons specifically have 27 more games. Everyone's kind of in that ballpark, and teams are going to have to turn it on here.
What do you think Detroit's biggest weakness is?
Turnovers, probably. Spearheaded by Cade, unfortunately, but I think they're a good 3-point shooting team. You know what? Probably post offense, actually, is what I'd go with.
Okay.
I don't think they really have a big that they can just dump it down to and go get a basket.
Inexperience part of that, too?
Yeah, sure. Inexperience is a great answer. Yeah.
You think that could hold them back?
Sure.
Okay.
Obviously, yeah, it could. Your most experienced guy on the roster is probably Tim Hardaway Jr., right?
Malik
Beasley, Tobias Harris. Yeah, those guys have made – but even like those guys, they haven't been to NBA finals or conference finals or anything like that. So that's a good answer, inexperience.
I think – I think their biggest weakness offensively is their 3-point shooting. They shoot like 27%. So I think they're ranked like 26th, 27th in that regard. We'll have to verify that here in a moment because I didn't expect it to go in this direction. But I want to say they're somewhere around there. I want to say 26 or lower. Just before the break, I thought I saw that they were like 26th, maybe 25th. I could be wrong there. But I think their 3-point shooting, that would be number one. I don't think experience can be used as an excuse because of the 3 veterans that play so much, if they're healthy, Harris and Hardaway and Beasley. Detroit is probably one of the more difficult teams to get a grasp of. I think a lot of people nationally when they break down teams, this might be a difficult one to try and figure out. How far can they go? So, because, I mean, would you call Cade Cunningham a superstar? No. Would you call him a star? He's a budding star. He's getting there. He's getting there. But your superstars, you grant superstars like you give out ACO $5 reward cards. I mean,
we do define it slightly differently, but I'm close. I'm closer than you are to superstar.
You have the superstar love for Cade Cunningham because he's one of your favorite players and plays on your favorite team. I think objectivity is required, but to your point, I think he's become a star this year because of the balance. But I think it's really hard when you look at Milwaukee, and you just brought up the two names. There used to be a belief. I don't know how people feel about it now. There used to be a belief that you needed at least 2 stars to challenge for a championship. I suppose eventually it turned into 3. When LeBron went to Miami,
you got to have a big 3.
Taking my talents to Miami. When he went to Miami with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, I think many people felt like, okay, now you need the trio. Golden State had the trio, right? Think about it. But back in the day, teams like Chicago, they had 2. They had Jordan and Pippen. There were some really good other players, right? But those 2 were seen as elite. It's part of the reason why you love the Pistons back in the day. And really all 3 of their championship teams.
Yeah,
did they really have that trio of stars, or did they have that 1-2 punch as the best? Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars were seen as the best backcourt, but neither was seen as the best guard.
Right, and even if you make it a trio,
Isaiah Thomas was, but so it eventually evolved, right? So Milwaukee's got Antetokounmpo and Lillard. Who else do they have? And some people view they have a detriment along the bench. Detroit might have the average, the edge there when it comes to coaching. When you would match it up against Milwaukee, who's the 1-2 punch for Detroit? Do you think? I mean, if you assume it's Cade Cunningham, I think it's a fair assumption. He's their best player. Who's Robin?
The crazy thing is, it's probably Malik Beasley off the bench.
Yeah, it probably is, unless they start him, because Jaden Ivey's being hurt.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's kind of missing here is if Jaden Ivey's present, it's probably him, but I don't know how the injury is going to affect
But
that.
it's not. I don't think it is. I don't think it would be Jaden Ivey. First of all, it's if you want to base it off what he's done this year, it's too small of a sample size. If you want to judge it off what he did last year, it's definitely not. Okay? Too inconsistent. Way too inconsistent. We just say that because he's another first-round pick.
Yeah, but I also think
because he's a guy that people have, that the organization has marketed.
It is weird though, because 2 years ago he had a really solid year when Cade was hurt,
right,
as a rookie, and then last year we know Monty Williams did a horrendous job coaching this team, and for whatever reason, Jaden Ivey was in the doghouse with Monty Williams all year. So you're right, small sample size this year.
I think at the beginning of the year, eventually he came around and realized, you know what, maybe I should put the best 5 players on the floor for crying out loud. But
but then you look at this year, and it is a small sample
size. There's a 1-2 punch for this team that makes you go, I got them with the edge for sure. And yet they find ways to win. And yet they scrap their way through it. And I don't mean the Isaiah Stewart or beef stew, as people like to call him, which is to me hilarious. Their way of fighting their way through it. It's their will. We use the word grit all the time with the Lions, associated with the Lions, and there's hats and there's shirts. And Dan Campbell has said it before and time again. And then we adopt it. That's awesome, right? That the Pistons team's pretty gritty too, and I love that about them. I really do. It's one of their endearing qualities. But they're a tough team, I think, to get a handle on, because not that you expect them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but if they scared a team like New York or Milwaukee or Indiana, you could see how they would do that. Like you go into the series, let's say it's a best of 5 series, and it's Detroit against New York. If you're a New York Knicks fan, are you totally comfortable? No. You feel like your team is better, And they are on paper and in the standings and a lot of important statistics. But there's something about that team, Pistons, that makes you go, if you're not careful, you're going to get in big trouble.
They're feisty. And I think, we call it inexperience, and I do think that probably is going to be the biggest Achilles heel if and when the Pistons are eliminated in the playoffs. But you could also look at it as the feistiness, the inexperience kind of adds an edge that some of the seasoned vets don't have. And I'm not saying that's a better way to win, but I just think the Pistons, they don't know any different. They don't know what it's like to lose. They don't know what it's like to win in the playoffs yet. So,
see, I disagree with that. I disagree. I mean,
I think there's an innocence to it.
What you're doing is you're looking at Cade Cunningham instead of a guy like Tim Hardaway or Tobias Harris. They've been on teams that have been in the playoffs, for crying out loud.
Well, sure, but Jalen Duren hasn't. Isaiah Stewart hasn't. Cade Cunningham hasn't. Jaden Ivey hasn't.
Well, Jaden Ivey's not going to be around, so that doesn't matter. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, yes. So we give those three names. How about the three names that I can give you? So what's more important?
Well,
okay. So
those guys are bench players. But Hardaway.
Tobias Harris isn't a bench player. Tim Hardaway's not a bench player. Malik Beasley has been forced into a situation where he's not a bench player. So I don't.
And Isaiah Stewart is, but Asar Thompson's another guy. He's probably your best defender. He's never been in big games before, So this is just. It is interesting as we come down the stretch here. That's all I'm saying. I think the Pistons, to answer your question, if you're a Knicks fan and you draw the Pistons in round one, are you extremely confident? Probably not extremely. I mean, you're going to pick your team to win in probably 5 games.
Well, you don't pick your team to win just because you want them to win.
No, but 1-2 punch of Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson.
You pick your team to win based on whether or not you think they're going to win. All right. And if you're in New York, you feel good with Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby and Jalen Duren or Jalen Brunson. Absolutely. Okay. They
are a better team. Yes.
Yeah. A better team. But I would remind people that, when we use the phrase big game a lot, Tim Hardaway has been 5 years. He was in the playoffs as a contributor. So how much does that matter to anybody? Is that important enough? Is that important enough to take them over the top? I'm not saying it is. I'm just asking the question. We view, because the Pistons haven't been there in a long time, we automatically view, well, this team doesn't have any playoff experience. They don't have any big game experience. They played in some big games so far this year. 7 years, Tobias Harris has been in the playoffs. He's been in 11 series. Is that not enough for you?
But, Shep, would you concede a little bit at least that Cade Cunningham's your best player, star, teetering on superstar? He doesn't have any playoff experience. So is that a little bit concerning to you? Just a little bit.
I don't think it is. Not for me. Because I think he can rise to that proverbial occasion, and I think he's good enough. I think we look at it like, oh my God, it's super intense and stuff like that. And I think he's the kind of guy who looks at it as, I love this type of challenge. This is what I've always wanted. We think it's bigger than they believe it to be bigger. It'd be different if we're the NBA Finals. There was a point where Isaiah Thomas didn't play in the NBA Finals, but he did, and look at how good he was, right? Again, I just remind you, Tim Hardaway, 5 playoffs here, 5 years he's been in the playoffs. Tobias Harris, 7, Malik Beasley, 4. They've got plenty of playoff experience to help them along. I think that's important. Final hour of X's and Bros right around the corner, including Ken Cal at 8:35 to talk hockey and Red Wings on a Wednesday.
Saturday, April 5th, Soaring Eagle Casino becomes Daryl's house. Don't miss a legend live, Daryl Hall, with special guest Glenn Tilbrook of Squeeze. Tickets start at $62 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. Make your favorite Sarah smile. Daryl Hall with Glenn Tilbrook, Saturday, April 5th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Huge here with an invitation for all of you to join Van Andel Institute and Fox Motors Hockey for Hockey Fights Cancer at Southside Ice Arena in Byron Center. It will take place February 21st through February 23rd. You can join the fun and help raise awareness and funds for Van Andel Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's. Since 2016, Southside Hockey Fights Cancer has raised nearly $500,000 for groundbreaking research at VAI. You can help them reach the $500,000 mark and make a positive impact on the future of human health. Learn more at foxmotorshockey.com. That is foxmotorshockey.com.
It's time to go on the court.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. It's a new day. Visit SoaringEagleCasino.com. Trent Valley here. The Pistons are taking all the rest they can get before what promises to be a neck-and-neck finish down the stretch in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Detroit has 27 games remaining, and with a 29-26 record, they sit 2.5 games ahead of Orlando for the 6th seed. The Pistons do have a strength of schedule that shouldn't be taken lightly, as the remaining foes on the schedule have a combined winning percentage of 49. Assuming Cade Cunningham continues his clip of 25.5 points, 6 boards, and 9.5 assists per game, the Pistons should absolutely have the playoffs on their radar, and anything short of their current comfortable 6th seed standing should be considered a disappointment.
Hey, Michigan, let's go big. I'm Herman Moore, Lions All-Pro wide receiver, and I'm talking real big-time winning on the hottest slots and table games on one incredible app, Eagle Casino and Sports.
Sign up now and get up to $1,500. That's right. We'll match your deposit for up to $1,500, and you'll get 100 free spins.
Eagle Casino and Sports. Made in Michigan, made for Michigan.
Must be 21 or older in Michigan to play.
Get some facts and come back and see me. Get some facts and come back and see me. Don't throw out salaries or other things. Get some facts and come back and see me. You can't handle the truth.
I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
We weren't good. There's no sense asking me things about the game. I'm telling you, we laid an egg, so I'm not going to break it down for you. We sucked. We laid an egg. That's all I have to say, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not going to break it down for you. Nothing went well for us. It's on us. We have to figure it out, and we will.
It's showtime.
Final hour of the program, we're brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Glad you're with us on this Wednesday morning. I found a really interesting article on ESPN.com that guides us through some NFL free agency, the best team fits for the top 50 free agents that are going to be out there. Two of those free agents are Detroit Lions. And I wanted to know where they were going to go. The assumption on my part was that they stay. I want Kevin Zeitler back. 1-year deal. He just signed a 1-year deal last year. You could sign him again for a 1-year deal, I guess, because of his age. I would like to see Carlton Davis back. Depends on the cost and it depends on the terms, but I'd like to see it. T. Higgins is the number one free agent out there. Joe Burrow is ready to redo his deal to keep him happy and try to bring him back. I don't know if he would do that for Trey Hendrickson. Cincinnati can score, but their defense sucks. So why you wouldn't do it for Trey Hendrickson, I don't know. But maybe it's because you're not in the huddle with him. I don't know how that works. Anyway, ESPN had T. Higgins going to Washington. They thought the best team fit is Washington. That's how they break this down. Okay, fine. Ronnie Staley, for example, staying with Baltimore. So I thought to myself, well, that's good. I mean, Chris Godwin, best team fit, Tampa. That's awesome. Sam Darnold, for example, going to the Raiders. So Trent and I just had a conversation during the break how the top 3 teams in the NFL draft, the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, could all use quarterbacks. Would you take any of the quarterbacks? I'd probably feel better if I signed a free agent. If I signed a guy like Sam Darnold. I'm just not convinced any of these quarterbacks are going to be really, really good. And when I have a top 5 pick, I am not taking a draft pick for the sake of taking a draft pick. That's how you put your team behind for the next 5 years. Well, I got to take this guy because I need him. I got to take this guy because he's young. No, you don't. You know what you can do? You can shore up some other areas. Do you need a quarterback? Absolutely. Do you need that quarterback? You better be really convinced. You better make damn sure that this guy is going to be your guy and do it quickly. Otherwise, you run into Zach Wilson stuff.
Well, and that's why I think the Titans, who have the number 1 pick, they should and will go with Abdul Carter, the edge rusher, right, out of Penn State.
Well,
they're not going to.
Going with.
But they. My point is, they are a team that needs a quarterback, but I don't think they're going to go with one because, like you're saying, they don't view either one of those guys as worthy of going number 1.
Well,
Cam Ward and Shador Sanders.
Well, first of all, I don't know how they view it yet. Just because we read a mock draft doesn't mean that's how that team views a player.
Yeah, I know that.
I don't know that.
Yeah,
but I would tell you this: your big board when you're running a franchise, I don't care if it's football, basketball, whatever. When you put out a big board, you rate players. You don't rate them always by position. You rate players, then you rate them by positions and so on. But bottom line is when you got a top 5 pick, especially first round pick, you're rating players. If your player is there and you didn't expect it, based on what you have seen and your scouts have seen, all the intangibles that you bring in, you draft that guy.
And Shep, you've said forever.
So when I look at it and I see Abdul Carter, I think he's the number 1 player on the draft board.
I agree.
That's the reason I take him. I don't take him to avoid a quarterback. I take him because he would be my number 1. I don't care if I already had a linebacker. I don't care if I had a defensive end. I'd still take him. I think he's an impact player. I think he's a hell of a football player. He's going to start for me from day one. So I don't know if Tennessee's going to take him. That's who I would take. If you start taking quarterbacks because I need one, and that guy doesn't work out, you're in deep trouble for not just this year, but for years down the road. It's easy to look back and say, would have, should have, could have. I'm talking about right now. Now, it might change a little bit as the rounds progress. If Tennessee's got Cam Ward as their number one player, then take him. You better be right, but then you can take him. Overall, I think you got to be right no matter what. I've said this ad nauseum. My philosophy has always been, if I'm an NFL general manager, my first 3 rounds, I expect starting players. I expect guys to come in and be able to start right away at some position. You know, if it's a starter as a special teamer, that would bother me. But maybe if you're Kansas City, if you're Philadelphia, if you're the Detroit Lions, you're so deep that you bring in a safety or you bring in a cornerback and he's going to play nickel for you. He may not be a starter, but he may come in as a nickel back. Okay, that's good as a 3rd round pick. My 1st round pick better start. My 2nd round pick better start. Quarterbacks are obviously the outlier because not always is a quarterback thrust into a situation. But we have noticed over the last 7-8 years, maybe even 10 years, where teams that are drafting quarterbacks high, they are putting them in as starters. They're not afraid to get to that right away. Let's see what Bryce Young can deliver. Let's see how quickly Bo Nix can pick up the offense and how good he's going to be. You're going to thrust him into that situation. Anyway, as I look down and I'm looking for Kevin Zeitler, I'm thinking to myself, he's going to be a free agent. The perfect fit for him, I believe, is Detroit. I think it's really important. I think that's an important position. Doesn't mean you can't draft it, okay, because you're going to lose Graham Glasgow. But let's see where it goes, right? So I'm looking for any team they feel would be a fit for Zeitler, hoping it's Detroit, or who might go to Detroit as a need. You scroll down, Zach Martin is a really good guard out of Dallas. They got him going to Kansas City, or is a best fit. By the time you get to Kevin Zeitler, who is listed on this top 50 free agent list as number 35, ironically enough, what you just brought up, they bring up Tennessee. Titans need to rebuild the right side of their offensive line. They start by adding a proven vet. He's physical. He's powerful. He's reliable. He can handle interior pass rushers. And he had a win rate with the Lions at 94.5%. I immediately go, Detroit needs that.
Yeah, don't you want him back?
Please? Okay. Really good information, really good stuff. And then I scroll down a little bit more, and because I'm looking for a best fit for the Lions, and I haven't seen one. In the top 50, I haven't seen one. There's only one player they have as a best fit for the Lions. And I thought, you know what? Why do I read these things? Chase Young.
Oh, boy. That's going to be popular with Lions
coach
fans.
Dan Campbell could add Young to pair with Aiden Hutchinson off the edge. Young notched 5.5 sacks with the Saints in 2024. His 46 pressures tied for 11th most in the league. He'd be a low-risk signing with upside.
I agree with the low-risk part.
Just because they need an edge rusher because Aiden Hutchinson was hurt last year. That's what it was. Would you like it? Or is it another signing of Zadarius Smith?
They do have to bolster that up, but that's not how I would do it. I'm with you. I wouldn't go Chase Young. I don't think that's how you do it.
I wouldn't either. All right, when we come back, we'll get to the final results of the poll question from yesterday. We will also get to our daily wager, and at 8:35, our friend Ken Cal, the radio play-by-play voice for the Red Wings, who joins us to talk hockey on X's and Bros.
Coming right at you. The excitement you've been waiting for. Eagle Casino and Sports. The mobile casino made in Michigan, made for Michigan. Play slots and table games with live dealers at one exciting site, playeagle.com. Sign up today and get a match deposit up to $1,500. That's right, up to $1,500 plus 100 free spins. Eagle Casino and Sports. Go to playeagle.com and start winning today. Must be 21 or older and in Michigan to play.
Huge here with an invitation for all of you to join Van Andel Institute and Fox Motors Hockey for Hockey Fights Cancer at Southside Ice Arena in Byron Center. It will take place February 21st through February 23rd. You can join the fun and help raise awareness and funds for Van Andel Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's. Since 2016, Southside Hockey Fights Cancer has raised nearly $500,000 for groundbreaking research at VAI. You can help them reach the $500,000 mark and make a positive impact on the future of human health. Learn more at foxmotorshockey.com. That is foxmotorshockey.com.
Save a good deal more at Meijer with bulk Gala, Fuji, or Pink Lady apples, just 99 cents a pound. Plus, during the 7 for $7 sale, you pay $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more on participating items, like Meijer frozen vegetables, Bush's beans, Red Gold canned tomatoes, Meijer facial tissue, and Powerade sports drink. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale. Now that's the good life. Exclusions apply. See all deals in-store or in the Meijer app.
You've heard him on Kill Tony, the #1 live podcast in the world.
He's always working on her craft. Macaroni and cheese.
Friday, March 14th, Tony Hinchcliffe at Soaring Eagle.
Your blood type is delicious.
Tickets start at $72 and are on sale now at the box office or etix.com. Check out the hottest comedy of 2025, Tony Hinchcliffe. March 14th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Relax, I only have so much time. I'm killing too hard.
More at SoaringEagleCasino.com.
18 after the hour. Welcome back, X's and Bros. Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Joined by Ken Cal at the bottom of the hour, 8:35. Ken Cal, the radio voice of the Detroit Red Wings, will join us to talk about the Red Wings push. What's the difference between Todd McClellan and what he has done to help this team find its way? The leadership of one Dylan Larkin, the excitement that Michiganders, specifically 4 Michiganders, and are on Team USA. And I don't know if you realize this, but the Charlie McAvoy injury is going to be much worse than people originally thought, because he went to a Boston hospital the other day, and we just find out that Bill Guerin, the general manager, was allowed to bring in, and Mike Sullivan said this, the head coach of Team USA, that Quinn Hughes is allowed to join the team. So they bring in Quinn Hughes, who obviously tells you he was the last defenseman cut. Could he be inserted into the lineup? I don't know. There are rules that disallow him to practice and so on and so forth until a guy is actually out. If Charlie McAvoy is a for sure scratch, then you could insert a guy like Quinn Hughes, who's the captain of Vancouver, and that would make 2 brothers on Team USA, which is pretty awesome. Quinn Hughes and Jack Hughes is already out there. And then, of course, the Tkachuk brothers. So we'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about the excitement. And I want to see what his thoughts are on how the National Hockey League can use what is being done right now as a way to I don't even know if it's inspire other leagues. That's probably not fair. But we did talk about yesterday about how the NBA is talking about a different format for their All-Star game. Let's just remind everybody, this is not an exhibition. This matters to people. And I've said this for a long time, not just this year, but I've said it for a long, long time. The only way it's hard to fool fans. Okay. You can fool fans at a press conference thinking that you won the press conference. Hey, that's going to be a really good coach, or that player seems like a really good guy, when they're really deep down not. But when you are playing the sport and collectively nobody cares on the floor, you can't expect people off the floor, off the ice, off the field, off the diamond to care. That's the way you gain fans. It's also the way you lose fans. If the NBA All-Star game, or any All-Star, let's not even just talk about the NBA. If any league is playing a game where you can tell there is no gas level, the give a blank level, then fans are just like, what am I doing here? That's why they'd rather see you do away with it altogether, rather than waste my time and my money. And before you go, yeah, but it's sold out, Shep. Wouldn't you love to know how many members of the league's front office and their family and their big sponsors are in the crowd? I would, because instead of you telling me that it's all paid for and everything, I think most of it is just, hey, you're here as our guest primarily. This is not an exhibition. The Four Nations face-off, Four Nations tournament, whatever you want to call it, is for pride. And it matters to these guys. And if you don't think it matters, you haven't watched one single game. I don't care if it's Finland against Sweden, USA against Sweden, Canada against Finland. I don't care. If you watch any of these games, you can tell how much it does matter to these guys.
You wouldn't be dropping gloves in an exhibition unless it really, really, really mattered to you.
Charlie
right?
McAvoy, I mean, the hits he put on, specifically Connor McDavid, if you don't think the general manager of the Boston Bruins and the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers is going, oh my God, man, I can't afford to lose Connor McDavid, and Charlie McAvoy's running him over. I can't afford Boston's thing. I can't afford Charlie McAvoy. It's like a teenager making his first parking test in the parking lot and running over a pylon. You can't afford to do that. You're going to get docked if you do that, right? If you're a kid. Charlie McAvoy getting hurt. You can't. They're oh my God. They're almost hoping that their guy isn't picked for Team USA. You're going to promote it. You're going, our guy's representing the country. He's one of the best in the world. Yes, but on the other hand, you're going, boy, I know how he plays. I know how he cares. I'm worried about that. Florida's worried that Matthew Tkachuk could get hurt. Don't kid yourself. There's a part of please. They're praying, don't get hurt.
And this is the beautiful thing about hockey,
because
you know what the exact opposite is, Shep, in the Olympics when the Clippers got involved and said, yeah, Kawhi Leonard's not playing in the Olympics. I know he was there for the photo shoots and, he was there for one of the scrimmages maybe. He's coming on home. We don't want him to get hurt. Hockey, these guys, you're right, they're scared to death, but the team doesn't just get to yank them out of there.
It's not an exhibition, man.
They're like, I'm playing for my country.
These guys, they're going to promote it. They're going to brag about it. Team USA will use this. This is a trickle-down effect. It'll be used for Team USA when they go to the Olympics. It's used for Team USA in the juniors. It's used as a major selling point for just about anybody who is recruiting kids. Hey, we won the USA juniors for 2 years in a row. We won the Four Nations Cup. An American team has won the Stanley Cup every year since 1993. All these other things is what you're going to bring up, and they should bring it up. And you know what? It's going to be in their bios. If it didn't matter, it's not going to be something that you're going to brag about. You're not going to have your jersey framed and hung up on the wall with great pride in that situation. So I do believe when people say it's just an exhibition, they couldn't be more misled. It's ridiculous. Let's get to the final results of our poll question. We give you a poll question every single day. Today, the poll question is, which Lions free agent would you rather have the team re-sign? Guard Kevin Zeitler, cornerback Carlton Davis, linebacker Derek Barnes, or other. You can vote as often as you like. All you got to do is go to our Twitter handle @XBMornings, and I've retweeted it out. You can vote as often as you like, and we'll give you the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. Yesterday, we asked you this, speaking of the NBA All-Star Game. Did you enjoy the NBA All-Star Game format? Simple yes or no was required. What are the final results?
There is no surprise here. 93% no. 7% said yes. Wow. I'd love to talk to the 7%. Call us. Let us know. Why did you like it?
3% said no. Wow.
That's a
what an indictment on the league. Look, you can't blame those people. When you've got players questioning it, you know damn well you've got problems. I mean, those are the people who are supposed to sell it and supposed to be fired up about it. All right, the Daily Wager. Had one last night, got another one tonight. Give us the results from last night, how you did, and what do we got tonight?
Last night we had Michigan State and Purdue over 148.5, and unfortunately, if you do the math there, came up about 7 points shy. But it was a good game nonetheless. But unfortunately, that doesn't make me any money. So tonight, we're going to try to do something different. NBA's back in action after the break, finally. Unfortunately, because of the LA Wildfires, the Lakers are playing a day early because they had to reschedule something.
They play Charlotte, right?
Yep, and that's the only game on tonight. I will take the Lakers to cover 12.5.
We're really going out on a limb there.
It's a big number. It is a big number. 12.5 is a lot of points, no matter who you're playing, but the Hornets are terrible. LeBron's well-rested. He didn't play in the All-Star game. And Luka Doncic, I mean, in his 2 games with the Lakers, he's had 14 points and 16 points. I'm waiting for that dam to break, and I think
Charlotte's lost 3 in a row.
They're terrible.
The Lakers have won 8 of 10. This was the question, and Washington has the worst record in all of basketball. I don't know if people are following that part of it. You're following the teams that win, but not following the teams that lose, and I understand why. They've got 9 wins. Charlotte has 13. Would you tank for Cooper Flagg? What's really sad is that you even got to talk about that. And
yeah, you're right.
That never used to be a thing at all, but now it's constantly a thing. Anyway, good stuff on the Daily Wager, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort and their sportsbook Ascend. When we come back, Ken Cal, our friend who is the play-by-play voice on the radio for Detroit Red Wings, will join us to discuss wings, hockey, and a whole lot more. It's brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort on a Wednesday morning throughout the great state of Michigan.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
At Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, the legendary Tower of Power.
Down to the nightclub.
Saturday night, March 8th, and same show, same night. It's war. Tickets start at $47 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. Get yourself to Bump City. March 8th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. War and Tower of Power. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Huge here with an invitation for everybody to join Van Andel Institute and Fox Motors Hockey for Hockey Fights Cancer at Southside Ice Arena in Byron Center on February 21st through the 23rd. Join the fun and help raise awareness and funds research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's. Learn more at foxmotorshockey.com. That is foxmotorshockey.com.
All right, back with you on this Wednesday morning, 35 after the hour. Red Wings gave us a lot to look forward to after the quote-unquote all-star break, after the Four Nations tournament, because of how well they've played. No one has done it better than the man who joins us now in calling those games and describing all the action with our friend Paul Woods, and he is Ken Cal, who's enjoyed the break, I hope. Ken, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate that very much. What have you done during the break, by the way? I hope you had a chance to get away and get some warmth in your body a little bit. I know a lot of the players were back on the ice yesterday, and they were talking about how they went to the beach. What did you do?
Well, the plan was to go out to Baltimore to visit my in-laws, and everybody was sick out there. So we ended up not going and just hung around Detroit and enjoyed the winter weather, I guess. You know, we haven't had a lot of snow recently, so it was kind of nice to get the shovel out and start shoveling a little bit. Kind of reminds me of the old days when we were growing up. It seemed like we had all kinds of snow on the ground.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's been a lot of fun for you, especially under a new coaching staff, if you will. I liked Derek Lalonde very much, but with the new head coach in line, what's been the biggest change, do you think? What has Todd McClellan brought to this team more than anything else?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I enjoyed working with Newsy Lalonde, and he was really good with us in the media, and always up front and frank. So, that's good. But, sometimes they just need a new voice, and you can't fire the whole team. So obviously they made a coaching change. And one of the things, I've known Todd from way back when he was here back in, 2008 when the Red Wings won the Stanley Cup. And back then he was a young coach, and everyone was saying he was going to be the next really good coach in the National Hockey League. And certainly if you look at how many wins he has now, over 700 in his career, he's definitely knows how to win, I guess, and knows how to coach at this level. But I just think he brings a teaching element that an experience that maybe Derek Lalonde didn't have, and the players bought into it. So I just think he's an excellent teacher. He knows the game really well, and he knows what he needs to do to get his team fired up and play. And certainly under his guidance right now, they've had 2 7-game win streaks. They've been playing really well.
Where have you noticed the biggest difference of this team's improvement?
Well, I think going into the season, the emphasis was on keeping the puck out of the net. And sometimes when you do that, you don't allow your players to be creative, especially your forwards, guys like Larkin and Raymond. And even though Raymond had a really good year so far, I just think they lack that creativity. And, you heard a couple of days in, Todd just said, go out and play hockey. You've done it all your life. And so I think maybe the overall systems that maybe Derek Lalonde had in place just didn't work with the team that they had. And you think back a couple of years ago, even last year, they scored a lot of goals. They were offensive minded and very creative. Everybody was putting the puck in the net. And, when you take that away and you just want to try to play defensive hockey, and I'm no coach, but I'm just telling you what I see, sometimes it can be more of a hindrance than helping you out.
The great play-by-play voice for Red Wings on radio, Ken Cal, joining us here on X's and Bros. We're on throughout the state of Michigan, whether you're listening in Cadillac, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Holland, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Traverse City, Lansing. You hear Ken Cal calling Red Wings games with our friend Paul Woods. I think people love young players who are drafted and groomed by their organization. I think we see it in everything. You and I noticed it during the Lions. You were very active on social media in your support for the Lions. You're a huge Tigers fan, so you want to root for a guy like Riley Green. And you see Edvinsson and Casper and Berggren and Johansson, so many of these younger players who seem to be thriving, and the moment isn't too big. Which young player has impressed you most since he's been called up to the team?
Well, before I answer that, I agree with you. I think this is how you have to win in professional sports. You have to be able to draft. You have to be able to develop, and it takes time. As you know, Matt, it just doesn't happen overnight. And, Steve Yzerman's been preaching patience, and sometimes that patience wears thin amongst the fans because you want to win right away. But I think you're seeing the fruits of his labor right now. And as far as to answer your question, I just think Simon Edmondson's been a big difference. And last year he came up and made a difference on the blue line. He's a plus player, I believe, on this team right now heading into the break. And also I just think that he has grown leaps and bounds, and they need him back there. And he's really had a role where he's playing a lot of minutes back there along with Mo Sider. And I think because of his growth, they were able to break those two up and make sure that you have two pairs that have two young defensemen on there that are probably the two best defensemen on the team right now.
Ken, you have two Red Wings who are in this Four Nations tournament. Dylan Larkin, who scored the game winner against Canada Saturday night, also assisted on the empty net goal to make it a 3-1. And Lucas Raymond, who's been one of Sweden's best players. What do you think this experience helps them with?
Well, I think the overall compete. And what I like about this tournament is it finally gives guys like Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond an opportunity to know what big games are all about. And when you think about it, Larkin made the playoffs his first year as a rookie. And after that, the Red Wings have not been in any big games really, except for maybe last year, a down the stretch run. But you want to compete in those types of situations where the game's on the line, you're helping your teammates out there, and every little play that you make could be a difference maker in the game. So I just think just playing in those big games, big moments in front of big crowds with everything on the line is only going to help them out. And that's something that they can take back with them, that experience that they've had in this four-team tournament, to come back and help the Red Wings with the final 27 games remaining on their schedule.
You have great passion for the sport you love. I love hockey too. I love the people who are associated with it. I think they're some of the best people, best athletes you can come in contact with. They're just down-to-earth good guys. Simple things like they show up at the arena in suits, they're very respectful. I just like everything that it teaches. That's why all three of my boys played the sport. But I don't think the NHL, and I don't think hockey in general, does a very good job of marketing its sports. And I don't think it does a very good job of marketing its athletes. How important has the Four Nations tournament been to help hockey do just that?
Well, I would have liked to see more teams in there, to be honest with you, just to spread it out a little more. I'd like to see Germany in there. I'd like to see Mo Sider and, Leon Draisaitl in there, and, France maybe, and some of these other teams, West or Germany. And it would be, I think it would be even better, but obviously you only have 2 weeks and you can't have that many teams. But I agree with you. And I think you look at football, especially, and how they market their players, and basketball is the same way. Hockey's got to learn from that. And even though this tournament helps out, I think it has to be, they have to come up with more ideas on how to promote players, how to promote teams, how to promote their league. And, I think the game's good. I kind of miss the physical element that we saw in years gone by. But with that said, I think the players are really good, especially how they skate and how they play the game now. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that marketing is a big thing. If the league wants to grow and expand, you have to learn how to market your players and make them bigger than life, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you with the physical aspect, but I don't think hockey's alone in that. Draymond Green has come out and said he's been warned by the NBA that he's being too physical. You and I both recognize the NFL and how it's changed. A little hit on Patrick Mahomes suddenly becomes a yellow flag, and we think it's ridiculous. But I think hockey's so unique, Ken, in the way that it allows that physicality and almost embraces it, and you police yourself. Why do you think they shy? I've had conversations with the East Coast Hockey League people and the American Hockey League people, and they want to avoid almost like a stand-back position on fighting. I'm not saying promote it, but I don't think you should necessarily try to distance yourself from it either, because it's part of the allure of the sport. Why do you think it's changed so much?
Well, I think it's a trend right now. And, you look back in the day, every team had an enforcer, and, even players that wanted to be drafted, you had a bunch of players that would be physical and would fight, guys like, Probert, Kosar, Wendell Clark back in the day, and Kelly Chase and Tony Twist. I mean, these guys were, pretty good with their fists, and they racked up a lot of penalty minutes. And every team, had to have a player like that. Well, now it's changed. I mean, and maybe it's the new breed of players that play in the National Hockey League. The game is more skilled right now. I think it's faster than what it was back in the day. But I've always said this, nobody sits down during a fight. Everyone likes it, and every now and then it's pretty good. But the problem you have is there's only a handful of players that I would consider heavyweights in the league right now, as opposed to when we were growing up and we were watching these guys where every team had a heavyweight on them.
Yeah, it's a good point, but a lot of those heavyweights could play. I mean, Bob Probert was skilled. Yeah. Darren McCarty was skilled, as you educate us during the broadcast on a regular basis. It's really good stuff. So the Four Nations to me it's been so enjoyable. And I think it's actually helped pave a way. You've got NBA players now talking about doing something similar to what the NHL is doing. That's how impactful this has been. But my belief, Ken, is that I wouldn't want to see it every year because I think it takes away the uniqueness and the special feeling you have. How often would you like to see this played and why?
Well, the way it's looking now is it looks like you're going to have it every 4 years, I think, or every 2 years. I think you'll have an all-star. Next year's the Olympics, and the way the NHL is positioning it right now is next year you'll have the Olympics, then you'll have an all-star game, then you'll have the World, a tournament like we've had now. Maybe there'll be a few more teams in it, and I think they're getting on a pattern right now where that's what you're going to see. So you'll get to see an all-star game every 3-4 years, but on the other hand, you're going to see some highly competitive hockey during the all-star break, so to speak, down the road, and also the Olympics as well, which I think everybody likes. And I think the players really enjoy it too. And that's a plus. Think about this, like Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond are playing for their country. Everybody else has a chance to heal up, go to somewhere warm. Like you mentioned when we first came on the air, these guys are playing hockey for 2 weeks and highly competitive hockey. Now they got to come back after tomorrow. They come back Friday, got to get back into it Saturday in an afternoon game against Minnesota. So no time to rest for your star players in the league. And I don't know if that's going to help or hurt it because you need those star players to perform and you hope they don't get too banged up. And some of those players are injured right now. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I know Boston has got to be scratching their head and wondering, man, with Charlie McAvoy out, if Quinn Hughes is in, what does that do? I would guarantee you that people in the front office at Edmonton are scared to death when Charlie McAvoy was running Connor McDavid because he's such a gifted player and so important, not just to Edmonton, but to the league in general. How do you envision tomorrow night going? Because you're not going to see the same start as you saw Saturday night, but how do you envision it? Well, you could feel the pent up emotion. I know for one, I wanted to really watch that game because you could see it building over the course of the year and in the first couple of games of the tournament. You wanted to see that game. Yeah. And the same thing's going to happen, I think, tomorrow. I mean, this is for all the marbles, and maybe the intensity won't be there at the start of the game as we saw. But on the other hand, listen, this is bragging rights right now, and everything's on the line. And I think this is how we all envisioned it. We all wanted to see a Canada-USA final. Mm-hmm. And now that USA won the first game, there's a lot of pressure on them to try and win the second game and win it all. And Canada's going to try to rebound. So I'm looking forward to it. I think everybody else in hockey is looking forward to it as well.
As a native Michigander, how proud are you that you can not just watch Dylan Larkin being from the state of Michigan, but also Zach Werenski and Kyle Connor and Connor Hellebuck. I mean, it's a prideful moment for this state, don't you think?
Well, not only that, but I like Austin Matthews. I think he's a really terrific hockey player, and even though he's not from Michigan, he's from Arizona. He plays on Team USA, and you grow up. I don't want to use the word hate, but because he plays for the Leafs, you're always against him. But now he's on your side for a change, and I think that's good for fans. If you're a Red Wing fan, now you can kind of cheer for guys like that, at least just for 1 or 2 games, and then you go back to where he's a rival again. But I think that's good to see, and I think fans enjoy that as well.
Hey, help me with this before I let you go. I think Dylan Larkin, he's one of my favorite athletes Detroit has had. You've seen so many great leaders. You've gotten to know them. You've called their games. You've had sit-down interviews with them for your pre-games with Woodsy. Dylan Larkin is a captain. What do you like most about the way he wears the C for this franchise? And how badly do you want to see this team reach the postseason for a guy like that who has been nothing but class and a high-end performer?
Well, you want to see him win, and as I mentioned before, that's what this tournament gives him personally, Matt. But I seen him come in as a kid, and you get to the point now where I think in the first 5-7 years of any pro career, they're worried about how they can stay in the league and generate numbers. But after a while, you want to win, and you want to win a cup, and I see that in Dylan Larkin. I think his desire to try and lift this team and go far into the playoffs and hopefully win another Stanley Cup down the road is something that he really wants to do, especially here in Detroit. And as far as the captains go, he kind of fits all the captains since I've been here. I mean, Steve Yzerman, kind of a quiet leader. Nick Lidstrom, kind of a quiet leader. Henrik Zetterberg was the same way. So he kind of fits that same mold. And I think if you look at all the captains in the past here over the last 29, 30 years, they're all the same, and they all lead by example, and certainly Dylan does that as well.
Yeah, Ken, I always say this about Nick Lidstrom. I think he's one of the finest leaders I've ever been around, and here's why. After losses, he spoke to the media. After wins, he allowed the younger players to do that. And I think he's the epitome of class. I think Dylan Larkin's a lot like that. I hope he gets more ice time tomorrow. I think he's proven he's one of the best players in the world. I think he's quieted a lot of people who doubted him. I think he's a special player, and I'm just glad he's a Red Wing. We're glad you're calling those games. Thanks for the time today, my friend. Good luck in the second half. We're hoping for another playoff push for you too, man.
All right, let's do it again at the end of the season. How's that, Matt?
That sounds great.
Maybe a playoff push.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Kenny. I will wait for your tweets with you on your boat a little bit later in the summer, if that's all right. Okay.
I'm hoping that'll be in June. I hope we got some hockey in May. Okay.
Amen to that. Yeah, you and Woodsy, keep up the great work. Appreciate it as always. Ken Kale, the radio play-by-play voice for the Detroit Red Wings, with us here on X's and Bros. There are certain players you feel good for. Dylan Larkin's one of those guys, for me anyway. I've said this. I said it a year ago. Would he be a number one center on a Stanley Cup championship team? No, he wouldn't. He'd be a second line center, though. But you know what? He makes up for it in other ways. So he's not a 40-goal scorer, okay? But he's a 200-foot player, and that's not always easy to find. And you got to be that if you want to be one of the best. And you're one of the best this country has to offer. Think about that for a moment. All the great players that are in the NHL, and there's more and more coming from the United States of America every single year. And he's one of the best 25 you can take. It's pretty special. Our thanks to Ken Keller. Our thanks to you for listening. I know you got a lot of choices, but